It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in, Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here as well. Alex, we have a loaded show today.
Yes, we do. We got to get going.
Yes, we do. Swoosh it, Sean. Well, you can swoosh the intro again if you want to. It's fine with me. Both Alex and I are cool with hearing our names again if you want. Number one, let's go right to it. Game 3 in Dallas tonight. Mavericks looking to get on the board in the NBA Finals. Alex, the line for the full game and the first half are the same right now. We've seen this throughout the postseason. We've seen this throughout the years. Team loses the first two on the road, returns home. A lot of people expect that big effort in the first half. 2.5 first half and full game on Dallas right now.
Yeah, it's a very popular trend here to take that team that is down in the first half. Another interesting thing is the total has moved up a little bit here at 213.5. We saw game 1, 196, and game 2, 203. People are in the ballpark. If you like Dallas, you like the over. Number 2 in the starting 5, Alexander Barkov on the ice at Panthers practice this morning, and no suspension for Draisaitl. Game tomorrow. Edmonton still a $1.30 favorite in this one. Total sitting at 5.5. Even though you want to hear a trend, Florida 8-1 to the under in their last 9 playoff games.
Number 3, Yankees dominant in Middle America. Maybe a little bit of a wake-up call for Kansas City. The Yankees go again. It's a 4-game set in KC. They're minus 145 favorite. The Yankees are tonight with Poteet on the mound, looking to make it 3 straight in a full Wednesday. Alex, there's 15 games on the card today, and 11 of them are interleague. Very strange scheduling by Major League Baseball.
And number 4, only one WNBA game today, but Commissioner Cup games continue. 1 today, 3 tomorrow, and then that will do it. Tonight, the Sky, 7-point favorite. The Sun are 7-point favorite over the Sky, 153.5 for that one. Another trend for you, Commissioner Cup games favorite, 17-9 against the spread.
Aces lose again last night as well. Back
3
to
in a
500
row
on the year. A little bit surprising on that. And then number 5, this would normally be number 1, but because we have a guest in studio, a nice little lead in here. U.S. Open week upon us. Pinehurst, number 2, one of the toughest courses there is. Scotty Scheffler, 3-1. Scotty Scheffler, dominant right now. And then Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele, your next 2 favorites. Actually, some news yesterday that came down. John Rahm pulling out with a foot infection, so we will not see Rahm, who has had a rough go of it here in 2024. Moving over to Live, just not the same guy. He's dealt with a bunch of injuries and now out with that foot injury. Brady Cannon in a moment here. I just want to bring up one other thing that is not on the starting 5. Jerry West passed away late last night. One of the best basketball players of all time. Of course, the logo of the NBA, modeled after Jerry West. Unbelievable executive in the NBA after his playing career as well. Passing away at the age of 86. Chris Andrews will stop in a little bit later to talk about Jerry West and memories of Jerry on the court, Jerry off the court that Chris has. He'll join us later in the show as well. Now, there's no artful segue, but we'll bring Brady Cannon in right now on the edge of the desk. You see Brady all over the place. Sports Grid, all over the internet with written pieces on a weekly basis, getting ready for the major. And you're with us all 3 for 3 on the major so far. We're going for the Grand Slam when the Open Championship comes around next month.
Yeah, I broke the streak somewhat for the PGA Championship. I wasn't able to get down here in studio. And, I thought about this, guys, getting my outfit ready for today. The last time you saw me, I was wearing my green jacket for the Masters. But I wore, blue today, the U.S. Open, the red, white, and blue. I don't have any red with me, but I've got the blue and white.
I've got red for us.
There we go. All right.
Us
and
3.
you've got blue. Yeah.
I didn't even think
it is the national championship.
I was Ryan's wearing, Ryan McCormick's wearing the same shade of red that Alex is today. So, Frank's wearing that. That's going to be pretty embarrassing on punchlines later if all 3 of you have the same color on, Alex.
That's not the favorite. I think we'll be okay.
I would be shocked if Frank even has something that shade of red, in all honesty. All right, Brady. Let's just start off, and this works into one of your bets as well, because Scotty Scheffler's dominance has reached another level, winning again on Jack's course last week. You want some fun real quick? This was Kyle Porter tweeted this out after Scheffler won on Sunday. Since January 1st of 2022, so 2+ years now, Scotty Scheffler has more worldwide wins than Patrick Reed, Adam Scott, Cam Young, Terrell Hatton, Justin Rose, Ricky Fowler, Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, Will Zalatoris, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Bryson DeChambeau, and Hideki Matsuyama combined.
Yeah.
Combined. I just mentioned double-digit guys who are awesome players, and Scheffler has more wins than all of them put together. Oh, by the way, a few major wins mixed in with that group as well.
Absolutely. And I remember back in the day, in the early 2000s, from let's say year 2000 to year 2005, when Tiger was on a historic run like this. And I was talking with a mutual friend, Jay Cornegay, about this yesterday. There was a couple majors when Tiger was even money to win. I kind of remember like 2-1, and I believe I recall one major when he was even money. At that point in his career, I think Tiger was winning in like over 50% of his starts. And so is Scotty right now. He's on currently a run in his last 8 starts when he's won 5 times. And that's just in his last 8 starts. That's not talking about last season when he was on another red hot run. But I really believe that we are seeing a Tiger-esque like run, and it'll remains to be seen how long this is going to continue for Scotty Scheffler, but he's on pace to catch Tiger for 15 majors. Is he on pace to catch Jack? Maybe not yet, but if this goes on for another decade or so, Scotty can really get to 14 or 15 majors and tie Tiger. I don't think there's anybody else in the game that can catch him right now, Jeff. I had a friend ask me last week when he was, winning again at the Memorial, how come Scotty makes a triple bogey on Saturday and finishes with a bogey and nobody can catch him? And I said, because he's better than everybody else. And then he said, boy, I can't wait until next week when we get some live players in the mix, Koepka and Cameron Smith. And I said, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. He is by far the best player in the world. Nobody can catch Scotty Scheffler right now. And we were talking about this before we came on air this morning. I know as a golf handicapper, certainly, and even in all sports, football, basketball, you name it, I typically want to gravitate towards the underdog and maybe find value on a team or a player that is live to take down the favorite. Especially in the world of golf, only one guy can win the tournament. And so when, one guy is 8-1 or 5-1, and you've got another 40 guys that are the other best players in the world at 20, 30, 40, 50, 100-1, you're like, okay, this looks like a good bet. I've gone the other direction at this point, Jeff. This is, I've heard a number of analogies this week. One I made up myself a couple months ago. I said, this is like betting on Floyd Mayweather. He doesn't lose. I said it earlier this week, this is Mike Tyson in his prime, and I don't see Buster Douglas anytime soon. And our mutual friend Matt Humans, equated it to Patrick Mahomes. You want to bet against him, but, in the end, you're going to get burned. And I have gone that direction. I bet Scotty one time pre-tournament earlier this year. I want to say he was in the neighborhood of 8-1. I did bet him back in December. Tiger's little tournament when he had 20 guys in the Bahamas, and I think Scotty was 4-1. You think about that. Scotty Scheffler at 4-1 against 20 guys. That was a great price.
Yeah, it was.
and he won. Now he's 3-1 against 150 guys. I've bet him in-game successfully like 4 times in the last couple of months, because I haven't been on him pre-tournament, but come Saturday or Sunday morning, you see him get out in front by a couple of strokes, and I've bet him as high as minus 400, because 6 or 7 holes later, he's minus 3,000. So I bet him pre-tournament again this week. And the more difficult the test becomes, I think the better chance he has, and as evidenced by last week at the Memorial. That was the second hardest tournament they've played this year, only second to the Masters. We saw how difficult that golf course was last week. Scotty didn't even have his A game, like we talked about. He made a triple bogey on Saturday. He was even a little bit shaky here and there on Sunday, but still better than everybody else. I think Scotty makes it 6 wins and 9 starts this week at Pinehurst.
So I listened to a bunch of press conferences from the U.S. Open yesterday, and I listened to his. He is so confident and calm and light going into this, and he did talk about the course and him being excited about the challenge. What has he really worked on to really make him stand out and think that he's got a shot at this one again?
Well, it's funny how things turn out sometimes, but, prior to the PGA Championship, watching Scotty do this time and time again, and I always liked the guy. I always seemed like a really likable guy, but it was a bit vanilla. It's just that, hit the fairway, hit the green, 2-putt, move on, and he's incredible at bouncing back. If he ever does make a bogey, he is the best on the PGA Tour with returning with a birdie. They call that bounce back percentage. He's number 1 on the PGA Tour amongst another, 100 categories, it seems. But when he got arrested at the PGA Championship, and then he came on for that press conference afterwards, and he said, I can't get into the legal speak, but he did everything else in explaining the entire situation to us as best as he possibly could, and was so honest about it and so forthcoming and so genuine. I was extremely impressed by how he handled that. And then it was this last week at the Memorial where the parents of Grayson Murray asked if he would say a few words in a eulogy, and he did it unscripted, off the cuff, and he said it so beautifully once again. And the arrest of Scotty Scheffler at the PGA Championship has thrust him more into the spotlight, and we're getting to see him more speak publicly. And every time I see him do it, I am more and more impressed with how smart this guy is, how composed this guy is. Not only is he the best player on the golf course, I believe he is the smartest. He has the best mental game. That's more Tiger-esque for you, right?
Yeah. Tiger
was not only the most talented player on the course, but he had beaten you mentally as well. And I think Scotty is reaching that point. So, your question, Alex, how can he do this? I think it just goes into the total composure, the total makeup of the man. He's just that good in so many different aspects. And I also think, we've seen when we saw that Michael Jordan 10-piece series, what was it called, over COVID or whatever, and Last Dance, and Tom Brady and some of these guys at the very top of their sport, we see how darn, otherworldly competitive they are. I think Scotty Scheffler, deep down inside, is that type of competitive. And you talked about getting himself ready, and he's excited for the challenge. I think he loves to be on the golf course beating people, and not in a negative way, but he loves the competition. He loves to be the best, and he loves his craft, and his craft is about beating people, and I think he just thrives on that type of stuff. And you don't really see it as much as Tiger, where he was kind of like a killer. Scotty is a silent assassin, if you will.
Yes.
So, Brady, let's go into the bets for this week, along with just looking at this course, which, as we know, is a beast. These U.S. Open courses are always beasts, even though they've pared it back a little bit from the insanity of guys winning at 5-6 over par. The weather seemingly looks okay. There was a question of that early in the week. Weather looks pretty good, all things considered. But when it's all said and done here, you have Scotty Scheffler on your card at 4-1. You have a few other guys. You go ahead and go through who else that, even though it may seem like a race for second, other guys that maybe if Scheffler has an off week could win this thing.
Yeah, I bet Scotty really almost immediately after the PGA Championship, and I got plus 450. And then even as late as last Sunday, when he was going on to win the Memorial, I found a book that still had him at 4-1. So I added some more. And, I think 4-1 is probably about the right price. And now you're seeing, plus 350, plus 325, 3-1. I've even seen plus 275. And no, that's no longer a great price. You're probably overpaying for that. But, we've illustrated that. I mean, would you rather have Scotty Scheffler at 3-1 and win, or would you rather, take some guy that you think's a good bet at 50-1 and lose? So it's almost like the price doesn't matter as much in this case, because I believe he is going to win. He's obviously an overwhelming favorite. So I'm not necessarily saying don't bet Scotty at this point just because the price is wrong. I still think you probably have a winner in your pocket. Now, I have 3 other guys that I do believe are very serious contenders. I bet Tommy Fleetwood at 40-1. I bet Ludwig Oberg at 20-1, and I bet Colin Morikawa at 20-1. Morikawa down now as low as about 14 because Morikawa, I think, is probably the greatest threat to Scotty. We saw him finish runner-up last week at the Memorial. He's had a number of top 10 finishes. He really burst onto the scene, kind of a rebirth. He was in bad form going into the Masters, and then he finished 3rd at Augusta, and I was extremely impressed with the way he's turned around his short game, and I think I can clearly see a determination, and he's even voiced it somewhat, that he is bound and determined to return to major championship winning form. He seems like the guy that is most determined in the world to catch Scotty. He knows exactly who this guy in front of him is, and Morikawa seems like the guy. And I think that's why we've seen his price come down so lot, is because a lot of people know that this is probably the next best thing you can get right now. Also, Xander Schauffele. Schauffele is obviously, I think Schauffele's probably the second best player in the world. The problem I have with him is he really going to win back-to-back majors? I kind of doubt that, even though I think this is also a very good course for him. So Oberg, Morikawa, and Fleetwood are the contenders that I have in pocket, so to speak. And then the long bombs, the flyers, I took triple-digit prices on Alex Noren and Billy Horschel, who have both had fantastic campaigns in 2024. 9 out of the last 10 starts for Noren. He's finished in the top 25. Horschel 15th last week at the Memorial, 8th at the PGA Championship, won a couple months ago in Corrales. And the overwhelming theme with all of my guys, including Scheffler, Jeff, and Alex, is I've narrowed this golf course down to 3 basic skill sets. Now, I've looked at all, when you have a major championship, you have to consider everything. It's not just a golf course where you're going to be able to do a couple of things well and be successful. You have to do everything well. You have to attack the par 4s, the par 5s. You have to avoid bogeys. You have to do this, that, and the other. But I think what it comes down to at Pinehurst number 2 is the fairways are pretty wide. So while driving accuracy is not necessarily at a premium, it kind of is because the course is extremely long as well. Okay, it's a par 70, and it's over 7,500 yards. So you've got to have some length off the tee. It shouldn't be too difficult to find the fairways, but you've got to find the right spot in the fairways. Because if you're in the wrong spot, you can have uneven lies and weird angles of approach into these greens. So total driving, which is a combination of length and accuracy. That's skill set number 1 for me. Number 2 is basically greens and regulation, strokes gained approach, okay, which is an old school and a new school, of basically the same statistic, playing your irons really well. You've got to be able to hit these greens in regulation for the most part, a good percentage of the time. They're what you'll hear called a turtleback, like an upside-down saucer. They're a dome-like shaped green surface, and they will repel a lot of errant shots into these closely mown, shaved runoff areas where you're going to have to see, or where you're going to see a number of different types of short game skill sets utilized to get up and down. You're going to see guys putting from off the green, chip shots, iron shots, 3-woods, hybrids. There's going to be a number of different ways these guys will have to show some creativity to try and get up and down around the green. So total driving, strokes gained approach, hit those greens in regulation, and when you miss those greens, be magical with your short game. Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, Oberg, Fleetwood, Noren, Horschel, they all check all of those boxes.
So, of course, you've bet those guys top 10, top 20 as well. You kind of joked that those were going for second between them after Scotty. But of those, who is your favorite if we were looking at the top 10 market? And I know I saw Morikawa, you could still get plus money top 10. I don't know if that's still out there. And then with Xander, I think you have to lay a price now for him with top 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I like both of those guys for a top 10 for sure. I played Morikawa top 20, and I want to say that was about minus 145, which I still think is a pretty decent price. I think Morikawa is a good bet maybe even you want to take a chance on top 5. I like to have a little more wiggle room,
Yes.
at still a good price. And like you say, a possible plus price for top 10. I did bet all those guys, everybody but Scheffler. Scheffler, I only bet to win. I certainly don't mind a bet on him at a top 5 finish, which I think you can find at minus 150 or even significantly better, which I think is a very good play. But the rest of the guys on my list, I bet for top 20. Morikawa, I don't mind for a top 10. Schauffele is a top 10 machine. Even though I said I don't think he's going to win back-to-back majors, I'd be a little surprised if he didn't finish top 10 here. And Noren and Horschel are obviously longer shots. I do expect them to play well. Maybe you want to, stretch it out even a little further and take them for a top 30 or top 40. But those finish position markets, and this speaks to Scotty's dominance too. More than ever, I am seeing markets this week without Scheffler.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to finish second, or top 10 without Scheffler, top 20 without, I've never seen so many markets without a guy. And I think that speaks a lot to what Scotty's doing. But finish position markets, I think, are really big, maybe more so than ever this week, because I feel that one guy's going to win and everybody else, you just have to figure out where they're going to land.
Just want to ask you about Aberg there, because we saw him make his major debut in the Masters, finish second, didn't play particularly well in Louisville, missed the cut. Now we're in this. This is a different experience. Obviously, the U.S. Open we know is the toughest of the 4 majors, just because USGA does what they like to do and make the courses as hard as they can for the most part, even though they've softened a little bit the last 3-4 years. Just for a guy that, again, first U.S. Open, he's handled it very well in the Masters, didn't handle it particularly well in the PGA Championship. He's the one guy that you mentioned that I'm just curious of what of his stats, what of watching him play drew you to him on this tournament.
Tremendous iron play. One of the best on the PGA Tour in strokes gained approach. I think he's 15th, if I recall, on the tour in strokes gained approach. You saw him at the Masters, just how, he just shoots lasers with his irons. He's, I think, 3rd on the PGA Tour. Actually, I think ranks higher than Scheffler. Scheffler's, I want to say, 4th in total driving, and I think Oberg is 3rd. So, again, the combination of length and accuracy, he hits it long and straight, nails the irons. And his short game, we saw it get a little shaky at Augusta chipping around the greens, but it has improved incredibly. He's now like 7th on tour in scrambling. And, by the way, he's 61st on tour in strokes gained putting. He's a pretty darn good putter. The other fact, so I mean, we know that the ceiling is very high for Oberg and his talent. I mean, we've only seen him, maybe not even a full year on tour, and we've only seen him play in a few majors, and he's already like the 6th best player in the world according to the rankings. Yes, he is that good. John Rahm is the only other guy in the last 35 years that has been a 2-time winner of the Ben Hogan Award. That is the best college player in America, Oberg and Rahm, the only 2 guys that have won that award twice. So that's an indicator, too, how good this guy is. He's also played Pinehurst before. In 2019, they had the U.S. Amateur there, which starts with 312 players, and then it whittles all the way down before you get to match play. He made it to the round of 32. So that's pretty good as well, and that shows you that he's made a lot of laps around this track and knows what he's in for. So I like the fact that he's got some experience here as well. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be high on Oberg. I mean, he's a guy, he's like a John Rahm, a Scotty Scheffler, a Xander Schauffele that you could probably just bet at any tournament because he's got that much talent. And, I saw 22-1 out there. I was only able to get 20, but I still think that's a pretty fair price. I think less than 20 gets a little short for me, but 20 or higher. And again, I think we're playing for second place. So, yeah, anything can happen, obviously. But if Scotty does happen to slip, I think Oberg is certainly a candidate to slip in there and grab the victory. And I absolutely like him for a top 20 finish as well.
Brady, of course, there's the round matchups and then the tournament matchups. Did anything jump out to you?
I rarely ever play individual round matchups because I just feel, for some reason, it doesn't work with my handicapping mind, and there's more randomness. You know that any time a guy can go out and shoot a 73, and at any time a guy can go out and shoot a 64. And over the course of 4 days, gives that handicap more time to manifest. Typically, over the course of 4 days, what you foresee or what a player's, typical performance is going to eventually play out over that time. It might not happen in 1 day, but it should over the course of 4 days. So I like to play the full tournament matchups, and I played Xander Schauffele over Rory McIlroy. I got -120. I heard that -130's out there. I don't think it should be much higher than -130. So somewhere in that window ought to be available. I mentioned earlier, I don't think Xander is going to win back-to-back major championships, but at the same time, I believe he's a really good fit for this golf course. He's another guy that is a tremendous scrambler, maybe even a better long iron player than Scheffler, and certainly right there in total driving as well. And Rory's, obviously a top 5 player in the world, but I don't think he is the best fit for this golf course. He drives it very long. He's typically pretty straight. Sometimes he gets a little squirrely with the driver. His irons sometimes can get a little squirrely. And he's just not, for me, in those 3 key areas, he's not as spot on as the other guys. Now, if Rory comes with his A game, he could beat Scotty. I said this too earlier, guys, to myself. I think there's 2 guys in the world right now that can beat Scotty if they have their absolute A game, and that's Xander and Rory. Xander, I don't see winning back-to-back, and I don't think this course is a perfect fit for Rory. So that gives me Scotty, and that also puts me over Xander over Rory in a head-to-head.
He's Brady Cannon again. You can get him on the tweets, Las Vegas Golfer. Brady, you can see him as well on SportsGrid. Golf.com. You're going to be writing up a storm the rest of the day as well, right?
Yeah, I've got to go home and write an article for the PGA Tour. Yep. My article for Golf.com came out yesterday. It's up there at Golf.com, or you can find it on my Twitter handle at Las Vegas Golfer. Let's see, an appearance on SportsGrid a little later today, and just SportsGrid, the Tour, and Golf.com, a continuous cycle.
Absolutely, Brady. Thank you for hopping in studio with us.
Thanks for having me once again.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we appreciate
Brady
it so
Cannon,
much.
everyone. When we come back, Chris Andrews is going to hop on the desk. Jerry West passing away earlier today. Chris has a few stories to tell us about the logo when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports,
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
comedy,
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
I am beautiful, and a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick,
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. For Rio.
and host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go, ah!
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here as well. Big thanks to Brady Cannon for hopping in as he does the week of the majors. So we'll see Brady again in July.
I can't wait. I love
Open
betting golf, and
the-
it's nice to hear from him.
The Open Championship in the month of July. Danny Burke will be with us in about 10 to 15 minutes. And now on the desk, you see him on the end. Sportsbook director behind us, our boss, Chris Andrews, with us right now.
Well, let's not forget, too, we got Barry Phillips coming on
Yeah,
today.
can't
at,
forget that.
3
That's
o'clock?
right.
2 or 3?
3 o'clock, Barry Phillips, the old
Yeah.
Sports by the Book time slot.
Yeah.
3 o'clock, Barry Phillips will be here previewing the U.S. Open. Be on the lookout for that later.
Yeah, that'll be an hour show, and Barry will go through everything.
Absolutely.
Just want to mention Jerry West. Surprised, of course, to hear about his passing today, but just saw some statistics. And I just want to say, up until Magic Johnson came around, my all-time backcourt was Jerry West and Oscar Robertson. And, we tend, and I say we, even guys like me in my age, because I remember those guys well during their playing career. You tend to kind of put them in the back of your mind a little bit, and then, Magic, I thought, well, he's, maybe a little better than Oscar. I don't know if he was better than Jerry. And then Jordan comes along, and of course he was better than all of them. But there's some of the things about Jerry West, you just, I'm not sure guys today appreciate it. First of all, there's no 3-point line back there. And Jerry West, his range was 25, 30 feet. There's that one famous shot that he hit from past midcourt to send a game into overtime against the Celtics. But here, just a couple stats that I wanted to show. 20-plus point games. This is in the finals, the NBA finals, not playoffs, finals. 49, 20 plus. These are all records, by the way, most of all time. No 3-point line either. 20-plus points in a game 49 times. 25-plus games 40 times. 30-plus points 31 times. 40-point games 10 times. Every one of those are records.
Wow.
No 3-point line.
No 3-point line.
That's the most amazing part of that.
And this is, of course, Michael Jordan played in a few finals games too, and he did not surpass Jerry for some of his things that he has done. I got to find this one other stat. These things that he has done is just incredible. By the way, I'm getting these from Paul Hembekides, Hembo, friend of the show. Okay, Jerry West, NBA Finals as a player, 1962, 63, 65, 66, 68, 69, 70, 72, 73. That's a pretty good run.
Yes.
As an executive, 1983, 84, 85, 87, 88, 89, 91, 2000. I heard this talked about on the air this morning, and I would have to agree with it. There's no single person in NBA history that has had a bigger impact on the game. There's great players going all the way back to Bill Russell. You can go all the way back to George Mikan, Bill Russell, obviously Jordan, Shaq, Kobe, just run the list. But as a player and as an executive, who has had a bigger impact on our game today than Jerry West? I would say nobody.
It's just, I'm just thinking in my head. He didn't obviously Red Auerbach, but that was more as a coach and
that's a huge one.
Yeah, that's a
no
big
doubt.
one. Russell, obviously, for a ton of reasons.
Yeah,
but
11 championships.
I know the old cliche, the Mount Rushmore, Chris.
Yeah.
But in that circumstance, Jerry West is chiseled in there with ease.
Yeah, impactful. Yeah,
yes,
I'd say number one. But I think I don't remember his college career, but growing up in Pittsburgh,
West Virginia.
Yeah, not far from West Virginia. When I started following basketball closely as a young kid, guys would tell me Jerry West stories from when he played at West Virginia. And a name that's kind of forgotten in the annals of basketball history, a guy by the name of Wilbert Robinson. And Wilbert went to school at Laurel Highlands High School outside of Pittsburgh. And he was a terrific high school player, went to West Virginia, broke Jerry West's scoring record. They booed him off the court. He broke that record. They didn't want to see their boy get beat in any way, shape, or form. I remember Robinson saying, "What do they want me to do?"
Not score.
Yeah, I just played the best that I could. But that's just the legend. And I tweeted out this morning. I read his book, West by West. I can't remember. There's another little add-on, dot and then some. What a life. And I don't mean a good life either. He had a tragic upbringing with an alcoholic father and he had some issues. I remember, because like I said, I always admired Jerry West. How can you not? And then reading about him, like, holy cow, this guy really needs a psychiatrist. He's got a lot of issues.
One more from Hembo real quick.
Okay.
This morning. July 11, 1996, Jerry West completed the trade that sent Kobe Bryant to the Lakers. Of course, the Hornets, we know, famously took Kobe and then traded him a few weeks later.
For
Vlade Divac.
For a good player.
Vlade was awesome, but he just wasn't Kobe.
It wasn't Kobe, yeah.
And then a week later, the Lakers signed Shaq. Pretty good.
I'd say that's a good week.
It's a pretty good week.
Good week for a general manager or whatever his title happened to be.
I think that's for an executive. It's going to be hard to ever beat a week like that in any sport. Period.
Thinking of the '74 draft for the Steelers was pretty good. 4 Hall of Famers.
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's pretty good.
Chris,
it's pretty good.
Wow.
I don't know if it's Kobe and Shaq, though, but it's got to be up there. That's just an incredible life. And like I said, the thing is, I think guys like you, and listen, I just mentioned George Mikan a while ago. I don't even remember him, but you guys probably don't see much unless you go back and on YouTube.
You got to search for it, yeah.
Find some clips of Jerry West. But trust me when I tell you, he is such a great player. And like I said, I've kind of put Magic ahead of him, but over the years I've kind of changed my mind on that. First of all, Jerry 1 year led the league in scoring and assists and was all defensive team. I don't know how many times, numerous times. Magic, listen, I don't want to make it sound like I'm knocking Magic, but he was not a great defensive player, where Jerry West was. Jerry West was, who was your top guard? That's who Jerry was on, and still had time to score all those points and make all those assists. He was a great player.
I'm glad you stepped in. It is important to talk about, and I mean, for you to share all those amazing stats.
Well, I remember it too.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I probably started following basketball. I was born in 56, so it's probably like, 63, 64, right when Jerry was becoming Jerry West. So I saw a lot of that.
So I got to put you on the spot real quick, Chris.
Okay.
It's very simple. It's not simple, but it's a fun one because just going through some Jerry West stuff right now as we're talking about it. You know what conference West Virginia was in when Jerry West played there?
Oh, my God.
I would not have gotten this either.
I don't think I could even hazard a guess.
West Virginia was in the SoCon.
The what?
The Southern Conference.
The Southern Conference?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I would never have gotten that.
We could be here 1,000 years, and I might not ever have gotten that.
One last thing on Jerry, though, because obviously, like, we're at this day and age, we're so obsessed with winning titles, and anything short of a title. I mean, that was the narrative around LeBron for all those years. How he's a great player, but how great is he? He's never won a title.
Yeah.
Same thing was done with Kobe before he won without Shaq as well. If the Boston Celtics dynasty did not exist, the Lakers, that's what the Lakers would have been what the Celtics were. The Lakers would have won.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have won enough rings to get rings on 2 hands like Bill Russell has, but they would have won 5, 6, 7 titles instead of just the one that they ended up winning.
And I'll throw Oscar Robertson in there too because he was in the Celtics conference. He was in the conference.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I think it was Jay Billis said, we've become very good at counting.
Yeah, we are great at counting.
We're great at counting. And, you look at, Danny Marino's never won a Super Bowl. Charles Barkley never won a championship.
Yeah.
These guys are great players. But, it's just so simplistic to say how many championships. It's just too. I remember when Eli Manning won his second Super Bowl, and so the question arose, is he a better quarterback than Peyton Manning? No, he's not. No. Please. Like I said, but it's easy to count. But Jerry West, I really believe the most impactful human in NBA history.
Chris, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Great seeing you guys.
Again, this has been a rough few. We, of course, lost Bill Walton a few weeks ago as well. Now the logo, Jerry West, passing away earlier today at the age of 86.
I would still tell guys, if you're really interested, read his book. It's interesting.
Now that you brought it up, I think I'm going to now.
Me too.
I've read. I'd actually just finished Walton's book.
Oh, did you?
About 2-3 weeks before he passed.
I haven't read.
It's a fun read.
I love
as you
him.
know, with Walt, I mean, a very interesting life, to put it in
no
the
kidding,
lightest of terms. And I mean, I don't think people realized. I mean, he had his whole spine put back together as well. Just all the injuries to his NBA career, and then his back went after the NBA career.
Quick message on Walton. Bob Ryan, who I think is probably the best NBA analyst writer, he said if we were playing for the championship of the earth against Mars, and he got to pick any player at his prime, his number one player that he would have taken was Bill Walton. Interesting.
He's one of the greatest what ifs of basketball history.
Yeah.
He had the one title in Portland when he was still healthy, and then he never had a healthy season. He had one season he played more than 65 games, and again after he won that title in '77.
Real quick, growing up in Pennsylvania, Tom McMillan coming out of high school. I don't know if you guys even know him.
That's a name I don't know.
He was a good pro. He was a very good player at Maryland. Wound up being a congressman for about 12 years out of Maryland. Anyway, he was like the best. He was the best coming out of high school. And, we'd kind of heard about this Walton guy. And back then, don't forget, freshmen weren't allowed to play. And I remember seeing a freshman game with Walton. I can't remember who they were playing. And I remember calling my cousin, because we both grew up in Pennsylvania. I said, forget about McMillan. This Walton guy's way better than McMillan.
Oh, that's good.
All right, guys. I've taken enough of your time.
Chris,
have a good show. You guys know you got Danny coming
Chris.
on, so have a good show. And Brady was great. So
Brady's always awesome breaking down the golf for sure.
Yeah, and golf fans. We got Barry Phillips a little later today.
3:00.
Make sure you tune in for that too. Anyway, have a good show, guys.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank
We'll
you,
take
Chris.
a quick break. When we get back, we check in with our friend DB. We'll see if he has any plays today on Game 3 of the NBA Finals, baseball, and more with Danny Burke, Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Welcome back in, Sports by the Book. Jeff Parles, Alex White, Sean, Caden. Jerry's working somewhere hard right now. I don't know where. Probably downstairs as well. Ryan McCormick's getting you hard and ready for punchlines here today. Alex will be there. Frank Nicotero will be there. And now joining us, our guy, Danny Burke, with us right now. Of course, Burksbeat.com, Burksbeat the podcast. DB, you're wearing like a Maverick shade of blue. Somewhat. I guess. I know that wasn't planned for tonight's game. I would say that, right?
It wasn't, but it kind of works out, right? I mean, the last time I was here, I was telling you both that I'm sweating out over 5.5 games played in the series, so I'm definitely going to need the Mavericks blue to come through in order to give that bet some more life. So might as well be in support for Dallas tonight.
Looks like the bettors are with you. And, of course, with Porzingis being questionable here, Danny. But do you agree with the line move? The Mavs are now 2.5-point favorites.
Yeah, it seems reasonable given the circumstance surrounding big man Kristaps Porzingis, because not only was he great offensively in game one, though that was, I don't want to say an aberration because, look, he's capable of doing that, but it was a little strange to expect such dominance coming off that injury. And then you kind of saw him fall back to earth in game two. But where he's really been a crucial factor is on the defensive side. He's been a great rim protector. He's really limited the damage that Dallas has been able to cause down low, especially on a lot of those fast breaks and cuts when players are going to attack the rim. So assuming that Porzingis is going to be out of the game, that is going to take a big threat away defensively. Offensively, they'll still be able to manage, right? You're still going to get production out of Jaylen Brown, and assuming Tatum can hit a little bit more of his shots, you're going to get more scoring from him. Holiday probably isn't going to score 20 plus once again, or at least 25 plus. And then we'll see what the other role players can do. But still, obviously, Dallas, with their backs against the wall, having the home court advantage here, the way that I foresaw this series going, I expected Dallas to at least get a game or two at home. So, yeah, I would have to be leaning toward the Mavericks. The thing that kind of scares me is a lot of times, especially in basketball, you have that fallen star theory, right? Where a top guy goes out, everybody wants to bet the opposing side, but still that original team with the missing piece still comes through. Hopefully that isn't the case again for my pre-series bet, but I do believe Dallas should be able to take care of business here.
Danny, who's the MVP of this series so far?
It's got to be Jaylen Brown, right? And I thought this was an interesting discussion leading into game three, and was kind of investigating it a little bit because, Tatum's setting like historically terrible numbers. I think one of the things I saw in StatMuse was like since 1979 and 80, Tatum has the lowest field goal percentage in the NBA Finals when attempting 150 plus shots at a number of 35.4%. Obviously, that takes into account his last trip to the finals, but he's 12 of 38 from the floor, only shooting 31.6% in this series. 28.6% from three, only 16 and 18 points respectively. He's doing well with the rebounds and assists, 20 rebounds, 17 assists. But the thing is, I think the scoring and who's really taking over later in these games is what would cause the narrative shift to favor Jaylen Brown. He's 15 of 27 from the floor, shooting over 55%. And again, he's over 20 points in both of these games, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. So he's going to have to boost that up a little bit. But unless Tatum, all of a sudden comes alive in these next couple of games, but if Brown still has the advantage with him in terms of scoring, I think the nod has to go with Jaylen Brown. And I know that Drew Holiday is now kind of the, trendy longer shot pick at about plus 750. Again, I can't really imagine him getting 20 plus the next couple of games. So I think it's got to be Jaylen Brown for me. I think the discourse is leading into a direction going to favor him.
Danny, let's go ahead and move to baseball. We do have 15 games on the card. If you took the under in the Pirates-Cardinals game yesterday, you're feeling pretty good with those with that pitching matchup. Now today, Sonny Gray, $1.70 at home. Total in this one, 8.5. Where'd you find value in this game?
Yeah, Alex, you mentioned Sonny Gray, and I think the value resides with him. Look, he's got a 3.21 earned run average. His xFIP is at 265, and he's almost striking out 12 batters per 9 innings pitched. So Sonny Gray has by far and away exceeded expectations from when the Cardinals brought him over this season. His expected weighted on base average is at 286. His expected ISO, 150. And his walks and hits per innings pitched just 1.07. So I could keep rattling them off, but clearly it's understood that Sonny Gray has been very efficient on the bump. Conversely, the southpaw Bailey Falter, who's going to be starting for the Pirates, has not been too efficient. Yes, his ERA looks strong at 3.69, but his expected ERA is at 5 flat. And then his xFIP is at 4.69. He's only striking out about 5.5 batters per 9 innings pitched. His expected WOBA is at 351. His expected ISO's at 220. He's getting a high barrel rate of over 10%. And the Cardinals haven't been dominant against southpaws this year, but they have improved over the past month against left-handed pitching. So I like the Cardinals in this game, especially after falling victim last night, 2-1. I don't like laying that expensive money line. And because the offense does still have some inconsistencies, what I've done in the past, which I've talked about here, is some books allow you to lay the flat one. You just pay a little bit more. So I did -1 for the Cardinals at the price of -121, just in case they can't get that extra run for security and the bats kind of fall short. So that's how I'm playing that matchup. But I do think the Cardinals get the job done tonight against Pittsburgh.
Danny, going to Detroit and Washington, I'll just ask you this because the numbers moved a little bit from 4.5 to 4 now in the first 5. It's Olsen against Irvin here in this matchup. Still good at 4 on the under, or is it tread a little more carefully now that it's moved without the hook?
Yeah, like you're kind of alluding to. So I took 4 in the hook under at the price of -130. I think 4 is still fine, right? Because, I mean, the biggest thing here is the wind is coming in at about 13 miles per hour. It's blowing in, which of course should impact the level of home run damage. You factor that in along with Olsen knowing he limits his home run to fly ball ratio at 5.3%. And Reese Olsen's going to be pitching for Detroit. And then on the other side with Irvin, he's been just as dominant limiting the home run damage. He's at 0.72 home runs allowed per 9 innings pitched. He's walking less than 2 batters per 9 innings, has a high ground ball rate. And then you look at Detroit's offense, they're 20th in weighted runs created plus against righties. And over the past 2 weeks, that number has dipped from 95 with their weighted runs created plus to 72. So you're going up against a quality pitcher in Irvin, and he's probably going to be able to limit that damage along with the weather once again. Olsen, in his last 2 starts, he's given up 13 earned runs, but you look at his stats, 3.43 ERA, same as his expected ERA. And then his FIP is at 3.07, xFIP a little higher, but still manageable at 3.70. His BABIP is 288. Ground ball percentage for him is at 53%. Like I mentioned, limiting the home run damage, and his expected ISO is at 109. So good numbers all throughout. That should signal positive regression for Olsen. And then you look at Washington and their bats. Over the past 2 weeks, their weighted runs created plus is 83, and their ISO is at 100 flat, which is just beyond brutal. So again, even though it's moved by a hook, I still think we'll probably see around 2, maybe 3 runs in the first 5 and think you're golden still at the number of 4 because of the weather, the success of these pitchers, and the inability for consistency offensively for both of these lineups.
Danny, before we let you go, I just want to ask you about the NL Rookie of the Year race, which is seemingly now wide open after I declared it that Imanaga is going to run away with it about 3 weeks ago. So great job by me on that. But here you are. I mean, this whole thing is super, super tight now. Mostly because, Paul Skeens has been awesome since coming up. By the way, Imanaga plus 115, Skeens plus 175. Yamamoto just sitting there, 3-1, pitching pretty well, all things considered. And then Jared Jones, who was mentioned by our guest Adam Rosenberg yesterday as a possibility at 12-1. This is all of a sudden, I think, the most intriguing betting market there is in all of baseball at this point.
It really is, Jeff. And I just don't see how you don't go with a pitcher in this realm, right? I mean, they've been so dominant that it just has to be one of those 3 guys if Yamamoto can improve some of his statistics and keep up that consistency throughout the season. Obviously, the same goes for Imanaga and Skeens. We finally saw Imanaga get blown up against the Brewers. He gave up, 6, 7 earned runs. And he came back to earth a little bit against the White Sox, or not came back to earth. He kind of came back to how he had been pitching before. The way that the Cubs are relying on Imanaga still sets him up, narratively speaking, right? Because the Cubs are a premier team. Even though they're not looking good, they're still a staple in Major League Baseball. Draw sellout crowds every single night. So if Imanaga can continue to produce, it's tough to get over him if you're a guy like Yamamoto who can get overshadowed by the pure dominance all throughout of the roster of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Paul Skeens, though, if you're asking me right now, and this wasn't my answer when we talked 2 weeks ago, but Paul Skeens over Imanaga, just based on price, if I had to bet it, would be the play to make. I mean, you look at some of his underlying metrics. While Imanaga's numbers are still good all throughout, the xFIP, the xERA are higher than his ERA and FIP. Whereas with Skeens, his strikeout rate is ridiculous, and his numbers are going in the opposite direction, actually indicating that he should be performing even better. And he just had another incredible outing last night. And because the price is better, I mean, again, I don't want to have to say this as a Cubs fan, and based on our discourse the other week, but it's got to be Skeens right now, right? I mean, do you think differently?
I mean, probably, and you have the narrative on top of it. I think that's the other issue here now, Danny, where if you have an Imanaga ticket, you almost need Imanaga to be able to win the Cy Young in order to win the Rookie of the Year. And I know that may sound nuts, but the narrative for Skeens, and look, it's justified. He's been, I mean, this is like Strasburg, when Strasburg came up over a decade ago, where he just came up and was right away one of the 6 or 7 best pitchers in the National League, which is exactly what Strasburg did when he came up. And granted, the Pirates are not as sad as the Nationals were at that point when Strasburg came up, but it's going to be really hard to overcome. And Alex, I'm just curious your thoughts too. I mean, it's just so hard for anyone. If Skeens has to get to what? Probably about 125 innings to probably win. If he gets there, I think he wins in a landslide at this point, in all honesty.
It really is just so impressive what he has done in making that jump. So I do think it is tough to beat that. I do want to ask Danny one more question because we are talking a lot about golf and the U.S. Open. And when Danny was on, we had to ask him for his Masters pick, and he gave us Bryson DeChambeau. First person to bring him up, and now he's been a very popular bet week after week since then because he did do so well at Augusta. Danny, did you make any bets, or are you thinking about betting on anyone for the U.S. Open?
Yeah, so I know you guys had Brady on, talk to him as well, and this isn't obviously going anywhere out of the ordinary because, you know, everybody's on him, but Colin Morikawa, aside from Scotty Scheffler, is a guy who's made my radar at about 16-1 to win it, but I'm investing more on him top 20 because I found a minus 120 price on that. Morikawa, in 4 out of the 6 of his last tournaments, he's had a top 5 finish somewhere around there. And this sets up nicely for him having the most driving accuracy on the tour right now. So Morikawa was definitely a guy who cracked the list. Scotty Scheffler, it seems like you can't not take a little piece of him, even for just like in a little bit of an insurance play over some of your other dudes, if you're getting 3-1 or better. With Bryson, I actually stayed away from Bryson. Bryson almost like Morikawa, but Bryson seems like he's becoming that trendy pick now to where, he could benefit from this course with his driving and if he can keep that accuracy going, but we'll see what he can do with the strokes gained approach. And it seems like toward the end, aside from the PGA Championship, but a little bit mentality-wise, he's faltered in some spots where he should really thrive when it comes to Saturday and Sunday. So I'm actually staying away from Bryson, but I like Morikawa a lot. And I'm going to take that stab on Scheffler just for some of that insurance. And I played some other guys in the top 20, but Morikawa is definitely my biggest exposure for someone that I'm hoping lands in that region.
There you go. Almost there in the PGA. Not quite from Morikawa, but Danny on him this week here at Pinehurst. Burke's Beat is the podcast. It's also the website. You find Danny Burke at Danny Burke5 on Twitter. DB, pleasure as always, man. Thanks for hanging with us today.
Appreciate you both. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Absolutely. Danny Burke.
Thank you, Danny.
Everyone. Alex, before we go, I made one bet on the U.S. Open. I took a 40-1 shot on Tommy Fleetwood.
Okay.
So I was in the same camp as what Brady had, but that's the only thing I have at the moment. Just so hard to bet a 3-1, even though I think Scheffler probably does win again. But all it takes is Scheffler being 4 or 5 shots off the lead after round 1. You could get in a little bit better number in game here. I think that would be the way to look to play Scheffler at this point.
So I do have Scotty plus 450.
That's a good number.
Jumped in last week after day 1 of the Memorial, and then I do have Morikawa top 10 plus 145. I might jump in on some more of that too, and looking for other top 20s. I will have in pocket by tomorrow, I'm sure.
Coming up later today, be on the lookout on our iTunes or our podcast links out there. We'll have a preview. Myself, Tom Viola, will be previewing the European Championships in soccer, getting going in Germany on Friday. Barry Phillips will be here as well at 3 o'clock, live on the stream, previewing the U.S. Open. And at noon, we check in with Ryan McCormick right now, who's been getting ready for punchlines throughout the show. Of course, Alex White's here on a Wednesday as always, and it's Hump Day Homers, right, Ryan?
That it is, yeah. So if you tune in at noon, we'll be getting Alex's pick, my pick, and Frank's pick for a home run hitter today. Mostly some good odds. And then we got some good Post with punchlines, picks at 12:36. A bunch of good stuff happening today.
So you need to correct me if I'm wrong here. Frank is the only one who has not picked the person to homer yet on Hump Day Homers,
Yep.
right?
Alex has 2 correct homer picks. I have 1 thanks to a Jose Ramirez makeup game.
Yeah,
the next
you
day.
got it on a technicality,
Yeah,
but
so
you still got it.
Alex
He's
is on the
still
board,
working.
I'm on the board, and Frank's still looking. So.
Yeah.
You're lucky as Mike wasn't on earlier. He would have definitely corrected you for phrasing. Like he does with Frank quite often on punchlines.
An AO moment for sure.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of stunned I didn't just start laughing hysterically once I saw McCormick's face, even though I didn't realize what I said until after I said it. If you want to go back and watch, go ahead, and have a fun time on that. All right, we're back tomorrow. We got a bigger slate of the WNBA.
Yes, we
we'll
do.
have a full on look at the U.S. Open as well, because we'll be going. We might have, maybe, who knows? Maybe you and I will have an in-game play by then.
Very possible.
Very possible. And in Major League Baseball, as always. We'll see you again tomorrow. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.